Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I'm going to be sharing an unusual size card for me. As you know, I usually make the smaller cards that are like 4¼ by 5½, but today I've got this one to share with you, which is 5 by 7, and it gives us lots of room here to do some decoration. And I'll explain why I've gone this route as we go through the video. I am featuring a bundle called Around the Bend, and I have used this on a couple of other videos. I just want to be able to share with you how versatile it is. And we've got lots of dies in this one that creates these lovely decorative finishes on the card. And then we've got another bunch of dies that cut all these flowers and leaves. So you get everything that's on this card has come from this particular bundle. That's the stamp set and the dies. Right, so let's make a start. And the main purpose of my card really is to explain how to get all these curvy pieces lined up. If you look, we've got a nice little scallop border here in green, and then we've got our sort of curvy border here, and then we've got our stamp here. And so the dies, as I showed you just now, they're this long. They're basically 6 inches long, and to fit on the front of this card I have a width to play with of about, I think it's about 4½ inches. So making sure that all these bits line up can be a little bit tricky, but as I say, I have come across or worked out a little method to deal with that. So I've got my supplies, my card base, which is Blackberry Bliss, and that's 7 by 10 scored at halfway. And then I've got a piece of Mossy Meadow and then 2 pieces of vanilla. Now they both measure 6 3/4 that away. And then there's one that measures 4½ across, and the other one measures 4 3/4. So the slightly wider piece is going to be for our inside. That's where you're going to write your "To You, Love from Me." And then this narrower piece is the piece that's going to be on the front. So we're going to make a start doing that cutting. So I've got my cut and emboss machine, and I have my base plate. So this is plate number 1 going down. And then I have my die cutting piece. This is kind of an extra thickness. It's number 2. Oh, excuse me. And then I have one of my clear plates. Much loved, but works brilliantly, even though it still has got lots of wear on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the piece at the top. Oh, excuse me. Now, this piece here, if you line up the end to your edge of your piece of card and at that corner there, then that will cut a really lovely curve, and it will finish at the sort of end, so you don't have like a sharp finish. So we're going to lay that down, and I'm going to use some of this sticky tape to hold it in place, because the last thing we want is for it to move while we've got it going through the machine. So again, I'm just making sure that that one there is lined up with that top corner. Stick that firmly down, and then I'm just going to rotate this one here just to make sure that that piece is also hanging or close to the edge. Right, and I need to make sure that my plates are lined up, and then I'm going to put my top plate on here like this. And then we're going to crank through, and I'm going to crank slowly because I want to make sure that those blades on the die have a chance to cut nicely into my cardstock. So there's that piece. I do a quick check over just to see that it's all cut through. So I only ran that through one time. I didn't need to put it through any more than that. And all I need now to do is just gently snip that bit there and that bit there, and then give it a wiggle. And it'll all come out. So there's our first cut. Now our next cut, we're going to be using this die. Now with this one, the cutting edge is here at the bottom, and this edge, it'll cut out those little circles, but it actually won't cut the paper in sections. So we need to make sure that we put it the right way round. So again, I'm going to pop this back through. Now with this one, you can see it's 6 inches. And so the question is, well, where do I put my die? You know, do I put it to this end? Do I put it to this end? So my solution was to position the die so that you had roughly the same amount hanging over either side. And I'm going to position it so that my curve is going, I mean, I could do it like that, where it would give me sort of a shallower curve, but I want my curve to be a bit more pronounced. So I'm going to have it sort of at this angle. And I'm going to lay it down. And again, making sure it doesn't go outside the two sides of my plate. And I'm going to stick it down. Like that. Top plate back on. And then we're going to just gently crank it through. Now at the end it is going to be a little bit tough because the rollers are having to jump over that piece of metal. But having said that, there's no other way I can actually put this through because the piece of paper is too long. So we're going to just double check. We can see that we've got some lovely die cutting going on there. And so we can just take this piece off. There we go. And remove. And then you can either use your brush, or if you simply give it a flick, then the pieces will come out quite easily and you can just knock them through. Now there are some of these here, if you can see, there are some that are actually just embossed dots. So it's not that they haven't cut through, it's just that they are embossed. So it's just giving you texture rather than a hole. Okay. I think those last little stubborn bits are coming out and we're good to go. So there's that piece. Now we've got to line up for the remaining piece of cardstock. And that's where I have this piece. And this is how I kind of worked out how I was going to make my curves line up. So as I said, this piece of paper, the width of it is decided by the size of your card. And there's nothing that you can sort of do about that. I guess you could cut it 6 inches and then trim it down, but that kind of wastes quite a bit of cardstock. So what I did was I got my piece of green, this is Mossy Meadow, and I cut it to the size of the die. And I'm going to then put it through the machine like this. Where's my bits of sticky again? And then I'll be able to trim it down. So as I say, this is how I've worked it out for me. This is going to be easy to do because I've only got a thin piece of metal going through there. And I just double check to make sure it's nicely cut, which it is. And I think we're then done with the cut and emboss machine. All right. So now let's just get rid of all these bits because they're bound to get stuck in the wrong place. Right. Okay, so there are my pieces. So that's what we've got. Now we're going to do some stamping. So this particular stamp actually comes curved, and the largest block I have is not quite long enough for it to go like that. So what I did was, that's laying it like face down, I just put my block so that I could pick up the stamp sort of diagonally across my stamp. I've also loaded up the greeting, "You are a blessing," which also has a curve on it that will tie in with the other die. And I'm going to be using just one ink color on this card, and that is Blackberry Bliss, one of my favorites in the reds. So when I'm going to stamp, I'm actually going to the tendency is to hold your block horizontal. I can't do that because I'm not going to get my pieces lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this on a piece of paper so I don't get it on my work surface. Is I'm actually going to have my block at an angle like this, and then this curve will line up with that curve. So we just go ahead and put some ink on this, and just make sure I've got enough ink on that. Just be absolutely sure, because I won't be able to have a second chance. So there I am, and I'm just lining up well, I kind of missed there, but I'm not going to freak about it. I'll show you how we can overcome that. And then we're going to add our greeting. And again, I'm going to find where it kind of follows the curve. And hopefully I don't mess this one up. Hugely better. Okay. Now, before I put my ink away, I'm just going to use this stamp. You can see these stamps are well loved because they've already got, they've kind of discolored, they've picked up the ink, but it doesn't affect the way that the stamps work. When I've cleaned these off, they will be a little bit pink, but if I wanted to use them on yellow or blue or any other color, it's not going to disturb. So there's my little piece to go on the inside. And I think with any luck at all, we've now finished with the stamps as well. Right. So I have my card base, and as I say, I've scored it halfway, and I'm going to put that line in. And I'm going to start by putting the inside layer on. Now, I've given you measurements, a few of the measurements for this card. However, if you look below this video, there will be a link to my blog. And on that blog will be the exact dimensions for the different layers of this card, as well as links to my online store where you can go ahead and buy the goodies so you can make this card as well. So our next part is to line up our scallop piece at the bottom here with the curve here. And because we've got this extra length piece of card, it means that I can just gently move it back and forward until I've got my curves exactly matched. Can you see that? And I'm just going to get something, and I'm just going to mark just a tiny little mark where that is, so it's easy for me to put it back down again. And then I'm going to add some adhesive. So at the minute I'm just going to put adhesive where it's going to touch the green card. So let's see my marks. That just gives me a starting point, because I can always wiggle them to get them in the right place. Up, 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 up. There we go. Got a little bit of adhesive come out, but that's fine. That will come off easy peasy. And then I can either use my trimmer, paper trimmer, or just use these scissors to just take off the excess. Like that. And then I can now just pop it onto the front of my card. Now, when I'm building a card, I usually start with the biggest pieces and then the littlest pieces are the last few pieces I put on. If you can imagine, if I was to load the front of this card up with the flowers before I attached it to my card front, I'd find that my flowers would get squished when I turned it over to add some adhesive. So we're gonna pop this down. And I put a tiny little bit of glue on the top of those floaty leaves. Obviously that bit wasn't as tiny as it should have been, but it will come off. There we go. And there my card is ready to decorate. So I'm going to set it aside for a few moments to just let all that adhesive set up. Now for my decorations, I used those dies I showed you a moment ago to cut out a bunch of flowers and leaves. So I've cut out these flowers, which I will pre-assemble, and I'm going to, sorry, I managed to knock my camera. I am going to assemble the last one just to show you how I do it. So I get a glue dot and I'm going to pick up this little blossom, only I've just lost my glue dot. Okay. Oh, it's still on there. And then I'm going to pop it there, center it there, flip that over, pick up a glue dot and line up so that I can see my petals showing through like that. And then I'm just going to use the back of a tool. We can use the pick your tool, the putty end with that on. And I'm just going to push it firmly in. And that allows it for all those layers to stick together, but also it kind of poofs it up and makes it look more realistic. And that is going to go onto a glue dimensional. There. Now I've got a load of leaves. I've cut some with Distress Gold, which I just love. The others are done with Mossy Meadow here. And I'm going to start by laying down my flowers. Like this. Let's see, how did I do it? I think I kind of did a bit of a curve. And once my flowers are there, I'm just going to put a little dot of adhesive on the back of my hand. Now, you need to be careful. If you're allergic to this kind of thing, don't do this. Just use it straight from the bottle. And I'm just going to tuck my flowers, my leaves, in amongst my flowers. I'm not putting oodles of adhesive on. I'm just putting it where it looks best. Just takes a few moments for the adhesive to catch. And so I just build up around here. And I'll carry on until I've got enough that I want. But I want to deal with this where I didn't quite get my stamping correct. So I'm going to attach a leaf. Here. And I've got a spare blossom. So I can put one of my little blossoms here, like that. And then the fact that the stamping isn't as good as I would hope it would be, will be hidden. And then my final little bit of decoration is to add some pearls. Like that. And I've also got a bow which I've made out of the gold and silver trim combo. You get 10 yards of the silver and 10 yards of the gold in a packet, and at the moment it's $9, which is one of the best deals I think I've come across in a long time. And then I can just pop my bow kind of here. Let's see, where can I pop my bow? There. And then I can just sort of build up until I've got all my leaves, and I'm not going to bore you with that. But the finished one will be on my blog. And I'll just pop all those to one side. Just a sec. I must fill that little gap. It's annoying me. Got a little gap here. Where you can see a bit too much of that stem. But as I say, it's great fun to organise all your leaves. And once you've done that, your card will be finished. Well, I do hope that you have enjoyed this video and that you can see how easy it is to use these dies to get everything lined up and create this beautiful card. If you've enjoyed the video, perhaps you'll go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you don't subscribe, maybe you'll do that. And if you have any comments, please go ahead and put them below, and I'll look forward to reading them. Well, thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye for now.